मैं वैसे रहने वाला बॉम्बे का ही हूँ। बांद्रा में मैं मतलब पला बड़ा हुआ हूँ और हम लोग स्टोरीज़ तो हमेशा बोलते रहते थे एज किड्स ऑल्सो। हम लोग जो भी फिल्में मतलब देखकर वापस हॉलीडेज़ के बाद स्कूल जाते थे, बोर्डिंग जाते थे, तो हम लोग अपने दोस्तों को बिठाकर उन सब स्टोरीज़ की फिर री नरेशन करते थे और काफ़ी ड्रामेटिक नरेशंस होते थे। हमारे एक भाई करीम, हम दोनों जुड़वा भाई है, हम दोनों मिलकर के स्टोरीज़ बोलते थे हर फिल्म की। और हमारे क्लास के जितने हमारे दोस्त होते थे वो वेट करते थे कि अब अमीन करीम आएंगे और हम लोग को अपने अपने स्टोरीज़ बोलेंगे। एंड दैट्स वेयर आई थिंक स्टोरी स्टार्टेड विद अस। आई वुड से अबाउट 10-12। फ्रॉम द एज ऑफ 10-12 we loved movies and we loved telling our stories again. Writing was interesting. Actually, I was acting. I had just finished filming Lagan as an actor, and my association with Ashutosh and Amir had kind of grown since Pehla Nasha, because that was Ashutosh Gowarikkar's first film. तो हम लोग कहानियाँ सुना करते थे, रिएक्ट करते थे उन कहानियों को लेकर। तो जब हम लोगों ने लगान की फिल्मिंग ख़त्म कर ली तो आशुतोष ने मुझसे पूछा था कि अमीन तू अब क्या कर रहा है? तो मैंने कहा अभी काम का इंतज़ार कर रहा हूँ एज एन एक्टर। तो वाई डोंट यू co-write स्वदेश विद मी? तो आई सेड अच्छा, यू थिंक आई कैन co-write with you? Half the writers in India will give their right hand to work with you. So he said, Amin, I want somebody who I can trust and I have experienced your sensibilities. So why don't you write? तो I was very flattered. तो मैंने कहा अशु, you think I can write but I don't think I can write with you. तो उसने बोला एक काम करते, I'll give you an exercise. 10 पेजेस है, तो लिख के ला उस पर। और उन्होंने एक सिचुएशन मुझे बोल दी और मैंने उस सिचुएशन को लेकर के कुछ 10 पेजेस लिख लिए और फिर जाके मैंने आशु को वो 10 पेजेस दिए। आशु ने बोला अमीन, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू रीड इट, आई नो इट विल बी इंटरेस्टिंग। द सिचुएशन आई गेव यू वाज सो बोरिंग and you wrote 10 pages. That is enough for you to know that you can write. Not for me, I always knew you could write. और फिर मैंने स्वदेश लिखी उनके साथ। Of course उसके बाद मैंने फिर राइटिंग छोड़ दी क्योंकि मुझे एक्टिंग करनी थी और लगान बहुत बड़ी हिट हो गई थी और उसमें काफ़ी मुझे रिकग्निशन मिली। उस रोल को लेकर के लोगों ने मुझे काफ़ी सराहाया। तो आई सेड अभी मैं एक्टिंग करूँगा। फिर मैंने उसके बाद कुछ 12 फिल्मों में एक्टिंग की, लेकिन nothing really worked like I thought it would as an actor. मुझे जो काम मिल रहे थे और रोल्स मिल रहे थे ठीक थे, तो I was not excited. तो I was in fact refusing more work than accepting. तो उसमें ये हो रहा था कि ना घर का ना घाट का और काम भी नहीं था। तो फिर मुझे विक्रम भट्ट साहब मिले जिनके साथ मैंने 7 फिल्मों में एक्टिंग की है। उन्होंने कहा मुझे कि अमीन तू राइटिंग कर। तो मेरे साथ आया और मेरी हर स्क्रिप्ट को जब मैं तुझे नरेट करता हूँ एज एन एक्टर, मुझे तू जो इनपुट्स देता है वो एज अ राइटर देता है और वो मुझे हमेशा बहुत काम आते और इंटरेस्टिंग भी लगते। तो तू व्हाई डोंट यू कंसिडर राइटिंग? बोला यार विकी, आई डोंट वांट टू राइट, आई वांट टू एक्ट। फिर आई वाज ब्लेस्ड विद ट्विन गर्ल्स एंड आई डिसाइडेड दैट आई विल नीड अ कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल इनकम। तो मैं राइटिंग मैंने स्टार्ट कर ली। और बोलते ना, सम पीपल आर बॉर्न ग्रेट, सम पीपल अचीव ग्रेटनेस एंड सम पीपल हैव ग्रेटनेस थ्रस्ट अपॉन देम। मैं वो राइटर हूँ दैट हैड राइटिंग थ्रस्ट अपॉन हिम। मजबूरी में मैंने राइटिंग शुरू की और आई एम हियर टुडे। एज अ फॉर्मल training I've had nothing, no formal training at all, but I've worked with, today I can say it with great honor and pride, I worked with Ashutosh Govarikkar, then I worked with Amir Khan for nearly 10 years. Every film that he was a part of, I would see, or every script that he was a part of, he would bounce it off with me and ask me what I thought of it. And then I worked with Vikram Bhatt for the last 3 years. So somewhere you can say that my formal training, I've had greater informal training and on the job training than as a formally trained writer. Working with these 3 people who are also contemporary filmmakers and are in the now and making great films and proving that with every film that they do. तो मुझे यही बोलना है कि they have been my gurus and I learnt on the job. Well, of course I feel a lack of formal training because somewhere I am not being able to articulate what is in my mind. But that also I learned, luckily for me, from these guys. And also there was one 2-day workshop I did with a wonderful writer called Mr. Krishna. He had written a screenplay of a movie called Shalimar. And I was invited for it by a friend, very sweet lady, and she said, Amin, tu aaja. And it was, I think I remember it was 1,500 rupees or something, and I didn't have the money. Or I didn't want to invest the money. And she said, Amin, don't have to worry about it, tu kar. It's from us. You know, I will be happy that an actor from Lagan is with us, and it will also. I said, Arey, it's an honor. So I went and I did that workshop for 2 days, and that was a very. It helped me understand what I was doing, but not being able to give it a name. So that exercise was amazing. It gave me, अच्छा ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है और ये इसकी ये क्राइसिस हुई है और इसका ये कथारसिस है और इसका ये रिडेम्पशन है, अच्छा ये इसकी कैरेक्टर स्केच है, इसलिए तो वो में जो हम लोग एक्चुअली क्या होता है ना, राइटर्स हम सब में, वी आर ऑल राइटर्स, anybody can write, but they don't understand 2-3 things, which is, one is how it is, what it is, उसका नाम क्या है उस चीज़ का. तो वो मुझे वहाँ से सीखने मिला. प्लस आमिर, अशु, विकी ने मुझे ये चीज़ अंडरलाइन करते हुए, समझाते हुए मुझे मतलब काफ़ी इट्स अ प्रोसेस. मैं एक बात यही बोलूँगा कि येस एनीबडी कैन राइट, but that is because we are all also very literate. We have learned. But then drama, understanding your audience, understanding your genre, as a narrator, what is it that you want to say? तो फिर वो सब, वो बारीकी जो बातें हैं ना, वो फिर कोई किसी को सिखा नहीं सकता. वो आपको पहले समझना है, देख करके, रीड करके. तो वो मतलब it has started to happen, and I have begun to understand a little of this huge world of writing. And और मैं यही बोलूँगा कि as a writer, every day I am being challenged with this question कि ये फ़िलहाल क्या है. हम लोग टटोलते हुए कुछ करते हुए आ रहे, और every day is a new day. I was just learning. I learned something else today again from, I was working with Kunal, and Kunal Kohli told me, I mean, challenging yourself after you finish writing a script is something that you have to always be ready for. And he said some things about what I had just written, and I said, you're right. मैंने ऐसे नहीं सोचा है, मैं उस पर भी गौर करूँगा, और we are learning. My first film as a writer was Swades, but that was co-written. Then I worked on Haunted. I did, that went on to become, at that time, the highest grossing horror film ever. It was also India's first 3D film. Then I did Dangerous Ishq. I did 1920 Evil Returns. I've co-written a film now with Vicky again called Ankur Arora Murder Case, Bhag Johnny. We are working on Haunted 2. I have written a film with Sanjay Daima, who co-wrote Lagan, called The Chosen One. So you can say that I'm working on a film right now with Bosco, the dance director, who's embarking upon his first film as director. It's a musical dance film, and so you can say I've written now about 12 films after Swades, and I am in the process of writing my first film, which I've been working on as a director. So that's my journey as a writer so far, and that's where I am. Actually, horror became my biggest hit as amongst all the other genres that I have also been dabbling with, because of Vikram Bhatt. And Vikram is a master of that genre. So when I was working with him as head of writing in his company ASA, we generally, of course, horror also goes back to our primal fears, and you know, it's part of all of us. And Vicky, of course, took it to another level with me. Every time he said to me, एक horror film लिखते, I said, मैं horror नहीं लिख सकता. He said, I mean, actually horror लिखना एक चीज़ है और horror feel करना एक दूसरी चीज़ है. Fear तो feel कर सकता है ना. I said, of course. He said, देख, story बोलनी है और डर के बोलनी है, समझ के बोलनी है कि fear कहाँ से हम लोगों को एक्सप्रेस हम लोग कर पाएंगे. उस सिचुएशन में हम लोग को अपने आप को डालना है और फिर सोचना है. And both the films I wrote in that genre went on to become very big hits. And what is amazing is that both those films had a cast that was not, not everybody's dream team to work with. Everybody in fact told us, what are you all doing with Mimmo Chakrabarti and what are you all doing with Aftab Shiv Dosani? But I was also skeptical, but I went and looked at Vicky for guidance, and I said, Vicky, are you sure we are doing the right thing? He said, Amin, content is king, believe in that, and you just give me your positive energy and give me what you have, Amin. Give me your grey cells. And I sat back and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and Vicky kept giving me lot of pointers, and actually he's been more my mentor and my co-writer in all of this, in my success as a writer, because he bolte na, knowing the road and walking the road are two different things. I had known the road with Ashutosh Gowarekar and Amir Khan. I walked the road with Vikram Bhatt, and he held my hand, and we all are insecure and we all are constantly nervous and we worry about कि वो समझ पाएगा या नहीं, या मैं कुछ right बोल रहा हूँ या मेरी बात वो समझ रहा है या नहीं, या whatever. He used to tell me, I mean, writers na, and I say this to all my writer colleagues, should talk, should dream, should dare to dream, should think, should not be scared to say अगर ऐसे करे तो, अगर उसका ये हो गया तो, because writing is rewriting, but talking about a thought is also very important. That kind of triggers another thought, and then it becomes like a cascading effect and domino effect, and one thing leads to the other and the next leads, and it starts from here, but it leads to something that kind of comes, oh, let's do this with this from there and that from here. So wo bante Vicky helped me with that, and that's how horror, which is actually something I thought I would never be able to do, became my biggest strength, or rather you can say my claim to fame. See, still one thing very important, and I would say this, and I know that all writers would believe this but should never forget it: story. Even a horror film has a story. If there is no story, there is nothing else, because horror is a treatment. Horror is a genre. For example, Titanic could have also been a horror film, because it's got its fair share of drama and death and anything that can happen to our principal characters. But what works about all of that is it's a milieu. Like if you see any of our greatest hits, horror, of all our horror hits, all of them have had great stories. Haunted is a story about a guy who falls in love with a girl who has died. He falls in love with her memories. In her letter, she has told him or whoever she needed to communicate that she had a very tough time and a very tough life, and so she ended it. He falls in love with her pain. He wants to rid her of her pain because he realizes that her spirit is still having to undergo that kind of zulm from the antagonist. So how can you save somebody who's already dead? So he goes back in time, and he finds himself back in time. He doesn't go back in time. He looks up at the heavens and says, what is this that happened, and why did it happen, and what is it that I can do to help this damsel in distress, this dead damsel in distress. So finally it's still a story more than anything else. But the villain is not a Bhai Thakur or a Gabbar Singh. He's a bhoot, and actually that makes him stronger than any other villain that there can be, because वो खुदा से भी नहीं डरता. वो एक अलग चीज़ है वो. तो हॉरर में ये जो हम लोग ढूंढते हैं, जो हम लोग करते हैं, इनविंसिबल हीरो, इम्पॉसिबल मिशन, ये तो कॉमिक बुक फॉर्मेट की स्टोरी टेलिंग है. इनविंसिबल हीरो आपके पास है रेडी, इविल, उससे बड़ा कोई चीज़ नहीं. इम्पॉसिबल मिशन, उस इविल को बीट करना with only one strength, good. So storytelling is actually what we are doing. The genre or the milieu is scary or horror. So where things come out at you which you can't see, while here you see 200 dacoits chasing you with guns, and you're fighting. So it's just that's only that changes. But storytelling is storytelling, and that's very important. Like, think fear. And fear is when the anticipation of what is going to happen is what creates most of the drama in your sequences. It's in the silences, it's not in the act, it is in the pre-act of what is going to happen, and that anticipation and arousing that kind of a tension of what is it that it's going to lead to or come from, and that that anxiousness and anxiety edge of the seat. I also saw, then after that I started to see these horror films or from this genre, and I've seen Paranormal Activity. For me, Paranormal Activity mein there is a sequence where the camera is recording in the night and all that. All that happens is the girl stands and looks at him sleeping. She does nothing to him. But that 3-minute standing, and it's like it's showing you the whole night, that what happens in the whole night, and she's just moving from places to places and she's looking at him sleep. She does nothing to him. And you were like, oof, you can't deal with that. Yes, kuch karne wali hai. So that is something I can share. The other thing is, I remember this sequence in the whole movie now, where actually in the first sequence, all that happens in the first night is that's it. The door opens 6 inches. बस. लेकिन वो जो change move होता है ना, वो मतलब it sends you to another so all I'm saying is that in horror is the thing I can share, is that when you write, imagine fear, and that when your rongtes, when you don't get goosebumps, you've not got that scene right. And then of course you have to be dramatic, you have to be clever. Like, what makes it all come together right, even I still can't tell you. A little bit of a good story, a little bit of those sequences, a little bit of the great performances by your actors, because you're reacting to nothing. There is nobody punching you. It's your reaction to something that you are also having to imagine. See, as a writer, after a point of time, the reason I want to actually become a director is, everybody here should read a book called Adventures of the Screen Trade. It's written by a writer, because that's why I say to all the writers, it's about William Goldman. He's the guy who wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He wrote Marathon Man. He's a fantastic writer, and what is great about him is he's written a book and he's compiled stories of various of his films and other films, and he talks about all this. And your question was, what is it that a writer, why, what is the satisfaction you get as a writer in a horror film or in any other medium? Firstly, a writer actually is as close as you can get to being God, because you give birth, you kill them, you उन लोग की तलाक करा देते हो, आप उनको बीमारी दे देते हो, आप जो चाहते हो आप उनके साथ करते हो, आप आपके कैरेक्टर्स के साथ. लेकिन the satisfaction after a point. So William Goldman gives you a list of names, and he's got this habit. He'll talk about Woody Allen and likes and the likes, and he says, what's the commonality between all these 10 directors? So I really didn't get it. So he says they were all writers. अच्छा, ये सब दादा लोग थे, सब राइटर्स थे, कमाल के राइटर्स थे, तो फिर इन लोग डायरेक्शन में क्यों घुसे? क्या होता है, आफ्टर अ पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम एज अ राइटर you pass the baton on to the director. So let us say, the best example I can give you is, as a mother, you give birth to a baby, but then उसकी परवरिश डायरेक्टर करता है. तो क्या होता है, आप उसको देखते हो बड़ा होते हुए, लेकिन आप परवरिश नहीं कर रहे हो उसकी, वो आपको खा जाता है. मैं अपने बच्चे के साथ ऐसा बर्ताव नहीं किया होता, मैं उसके साथ वैसा किया होता. अरे पर भाई, अभी आप राइटर हो, अब यहाँ के बाद आपको छोड़ना है. जैसे कि बिकॉज आई एम नाउ बिगिनिंग टू एम्बार्क अपॉन थिंग्स एज ए डायरेक्टर, आई एम लर्निंग. अच्छा, मुझे हमेशा लगता था ये डायरेक्टर लोग क्या करते हैं यार, राइटर ही सब कुछ होता है. टुडे आई एम एम्बार्किंग अपॉन अ जर्नी एज ए डायरेक्टर, आई एम रियलाइजिंग nurture and nature after a point of time change, because then when you're doing that other thing, you realize what other problems are there as a director that you have to do with and deal with. So as a writer, when I read my own script which I then decide to direct, I realize अरे मैं बहुत writing ज़्यादा overwrite करता हूँ, मैं ज़्यादा explanation दे रहा हूँ, मैं ज़्यादा ये कर रहा हूँ. Then I started to edit it as a director, and then I realized why I was getting upset with my director for having cut that line, because it's already been said. So somewhere as a writer, the question is, how much of satisfaction can you enjoy? Whether it's horror, whether it's a comedy, whether it's anything, after a point of time, yes, it's all on your plan. You're the architect. You have designed you have done the blueprint and given it to them. But yeah, the painting, the pictures in the room, from there to everything else, the performances, the manipulation, understanding that because a director, then you are writing from your mind, you are writing within the confines of your room, within the confines of your laptop, within the confines of your paper and pen. You are not going out to direct and then working with the medium that is being given to you, which are human beings. यार इससे ये नहीं हो रहा था, मैं इसके लिए उससे वैसे करा दिया. तो जहाँ पे she should have looked angry, I made her look sad because she was not being able to look angry. अच्छा, so I had to make this. Then you're working with people. Commodity is not a commodity, it's humans. So that's when direction comes in. So the satisfaction as a writer will always, after a point of time, be only up to an extent. And whether it's any genre. And then you wish that you could direct it. I plan to be a writer all my life. Whether I write horror films, whether I write comedies, whether I write musicals, whether I write thrillers, I want to constantly write and challenge myself. I don't want to end up just writing horror films because और भी गम है ज़माने में. I want to enjoy all of that, and I feel I have a flair for it, and I would like to probe down that route. In fact, as of right now, I've written only 2 horrors, and I've written 6 different films. Swadesh is one of them. Ankur Arora murder case is about medical negligence. It's got no horror. Bhag Johnny is about what would be and what could be. It's not a horror film. In fact, it's a thriller or in that kind. It's a very emotional film also. And then like the film I'm writing for Bosco is about music and dance, and it's all about different things. So I am dabbling in all these genres, and I'm enjoying a high from each and every one of them. As a writer, what we enjoy is, does our character communicate with us and what we wanted it to communicate with the rest of the country or all our storyteller or our audiences. So that is something I never want to stop doing. I always want to write. I would like to direct some of the films I write. I would like to like greater directors or more qabil directors to direct many of my other films, because each and every one you can't do everything with. So I would like to be in the middle of both the worlds, and I'm enjoying the process of your brain. It's an amazing organ, and I feel that the universe conspires with you when you put your ideas out there, and you start to see it. My father used to say, "Aankh paida kar," and today I must tell you, I see things. They talk to me. Arey, I could have used this here. I can take this from there and put it here, but I have to flip it. I can do that. It comes to me. I don't like. I would say, I heard a very nice line that Anand Bakshi used to say, "Mere dimag mein tapka," and I would like to say that मेरे दिमाग में टपकता है, और जब तक बस रहमत रहे, the blessings of this great positive world around me, they keep giving me ideas, and I've so far been able to piece the picture up well from pieces that I'd never expected that would come to me or be around here, and they fall in place. And that feeling of watching it fall in place, and when you narrate it, seeing a person react to it and say, "I want it, I like it," yes, I told another good story today. And then of course you keep getting better, and you sometimes even get worse.